In this section, we focus on the advanced choices in the Share Control Contract and IFRS 16. You must have installed the updated version to get access to the functions. Please contact us in Share Control. Changes as lease modification, exercise of an option to extend the lease, change in discount rate, and termination are accessed here. You start by recording the date the change is effective. An example: if you have entered into an agreement for an extension of a lease agreement based on an option to extend, then the date for the decision on extension will be the date on which the change is registered. If there are several events with different dates that shall be registered, then this must be repeated for each change. The changes must be made in chronological order. This is controlled by the data selector, which will prevent you from returning to a date before the last change. This means, for example, that if you want to enter an extension for a contract before you make a CPI regulation, then the extension must be entered before the CPI regulation is entered. In case of an error, you can go back to the previous version using the change log. We recommend using the comment headline for changes so that you can review changes that have been made. If there are several changes that take place on the same date, the changes can be registered simultaneously. It is important that the date of change is correct and is consistent with the month the change should be recorded. Discount rate. Changes in the discount rate is made in the tab General. A change in the discount rate by, for example, based on an extension of the contract is made here. The change is calculated from the time that is registered for the change. Be aware that the discount rate set on January 1st, 2019 is normally not changed without the change in the lease terms. It is important to distinguish between a change of an existing lease contract or termination of an existing contract and the entering of a new contract. Reference is made here to IFRS 16, paragraph 44. In case there is a change in the rental amount, then the function periods can be used, and here changes to the rental amount are recorded from the change date registered. Changes can only be made for future periods. All changes will then be discounted to the registered date of the change. If changes are considered as a termination of an existing contract and the entering of a new contract, the new contract is registered and the existing contract is terminated. We stress that changes to leases may be complicated, and we refer to the auditor's publications. There is more detailed information in our user guide on how complex changes are recorded, and we can of course assist in complex situations. There's also the possibility of copying the lease to a test page and evaluate the outcome before you make the changes on the actual lease. Change of option for extension. You can go directly from the front page to the current contract if you have registered the date for the option to extend. Choose extension options and make the changes, such as exercising an option that has not previously been included in the calculation. Keep in mind that the date you have registered is the time the change is recorded and the time you discount the changes in future payments and adjust the lease liability and the corresponding right of use asset. Contract termination. If a contract is terminated, use the termination function and enter the termination date. This only applies to contracts that terminate before end of the minimum lease period. Upon termination, the gain or loss is calculated at the time of termination as the difference the remaining value of lease liability and the right of use assets plus a termination fee. Purchase options. If you have a right to purchase the underlying assets, then this is registered here. By turning on a purchase option, the lease liability and the right-of-use asset increase with the discounted value of the payment for the right-of-use asset at the end of the lease contract. The residual value should be set to the same value so that the right-of-use asset is then depreciated to the residual value. Purchase option date is the date on which the lease payment is discounted to and the period the change is accounted for. Modified retrospective implementation. According to IFRS 16 C8, the right-of-use asset can be depreciated from the commencement date based on the historical rent payments, but discontinued with the implicit borrowing rate at the time of implementation. For the contracts where this choice is used, an adjustment amount appears in the implementation calculation. These figures should be entered here in SharePoint under the heading shown below. This will then appear as a correction to right-of-use asset as of January 1, 2019, and reduce future depreciation. Remember that this difference is booked against equity before tax on implementation date.